Welcome into the Landon Tengwall Show, brought to you by the Student Bookstore, Downtown State College, where you should get all your Penn State merch needs. Penn State with a soul-crushing loss to Indiana, 24-27. Incredibly hard-fought game by the Nittany Lions. Indiana just made more plays, especially when they needed to be made. And that's kind of been the reoccurring theme that we have had to deal with as Penn State fans the past 9 years. Every big game, it's just the opposing team makes a few more plays than we do. So we will get into some of the mistakes, the good stuff, the shortcomings, everything in between. I do want to note, Terry Smith said in his presser, no one will ever question a Terry Smith-led team that they do not play hard, and that could not be more true. Really proud of these guys, the effort, proud of the fans, the way everybody showed up. There was the doubters and, people saying, oh, the attendance isn't going to be great. Well, it was rocking in there. It was loud, and I'm proud of the fans that they continue to show up and support this team because these guys deserve it. They are given everything they got. And really, it seems like since they stepped on the field at Iowa, there has been a little bit of a change in the demeanor, in the mindset, the way that everybody is attacking the game. And it seems like guys are they're having fun playing football again. And that's, as someone who played, there's nothing worse than when you're not having fun. And it makes it really difficult to be successful when you're not having fun. So to see Terry Smith bring that back, still doesn't have a win. Now, he played at Iowa, at Ohio State, the number one team in America, and then Indiana at home, the number two team. So not games I necessarily thought we were going to win, but I still think Terry Smith deserves a ton of credit for what he's done. Big-time sacrifice from him. All right, Ethan Grunkemeyer started to throw the football down the field, and that was a great feeling. 6 completions of 15 yards or more. So 15-yard completions. 6 of them, that is more than Penn State had against Ohio State, Iowa, and Northwestern all combined in those games. So that just shows you how little Penn State was actually throwing the football down the field. Now, in the first half, it was still more of the same. I think only one of those 15-yard completions came in the first half. It was taking a while for it to get going, and there was still, as producer Jesse put on Twitter, he said the horizontal passing attack is basically what we run, where the horizontal air raid that was the truth, though. That's what it felt like. We just could not pass the ball past the first down marker. It was like it was illegal for us until we came out in the second half, and it was clear there was a conversation at halftime because Ethan Grunkemeyer comes out, unloads a deep ball, and it wasn't even like, I think it was Ross, but it wasn't even really like he was open. He was just throwing it just to throw it, and that has been my point for a while. Shout out Corey Geiger. Sometimes you just have to chuck it up. Sometimes you need to test that defense deep and make them second guess and say, oh, I have to be careful. They're going to press the ball down the field. Now, I don't know why that didn't happen at the beginning of the game. It was clear that Terry Smith was very heavy. I mean, he literally said in his Monday presser, he said, we are going to throw the football down the field. So you come out in the first half and you still don't do that. If you think to that first drive, or that last drive where Katron Allen fumbled before halftime, we ran like back-to-back, the same play, just curl, flat combo, plays that are, you're only going to get 6-7 yards on, like just no emphasis to throw the ball down the field. So that was clearly changed. Like I said, I have to question why that did not happen earlier. Terry Smith was asked about it in the post-game presser, and he said, quote, we made calls to throw the ball down the field. So that then begs the question, why did we not do that the first 8 weeks? Why did it take till halfway through game 9 to make calls to throw the football down the field? That's why I was continuing to say, it wasn't joking. It wasn't a hyperbole when I said that I thought Andy Kotelnicki was borderline sabotaging us, that it felt like he was unserious, because how do you not do that? I feel incredibly bad for Drew Aller for the fact that it took that long for us to call plays that were, to pass the ball down the field. That is ridiculous, and that is why I said you cannot bring Kotelnicki back next season. Not that I think they will, but it makes me unreasonably angry, the fact that I just heard that. It's just like, okay, so like what were the offensive meetings like? Like what were there being talked about in week 6 or 7? And it was just like, sorry, just had to do that. Like what was being talked about? Like how do you not have those conversations that we have to stretch the field? Because as soon as we did it, you saw it's not a coincidence that as soon as you start to throw the football down the field, positive things started to happen for the Penn State offense, because anytime you stretch the field, it opens up everything else. The run game is better because you don't have 7 or 8 guys in the box. The short passing game that we love to do, it's easier because the DBs are backed off a little bit more. They're thinking, okay, they're going to run routes that are deeper, that are 15, 20 yards down the field. So it just, you saw so much more run after catch because there was just space. So I did appreciate that Grunk on that second pass out of halftime threw an interception. What I appreciated was we continued to throw the ball. It wasn't like, all right, we're just going to go, hermit crab, just get in our shell and just go back to running the ball and throwing 5-yard passes. It was, no, we're going to continue to sling this thing. And that's where I was overall pleased with Grunk's performance. It felt like once they just let him sling it, there was just confidence injected in the offense, and everybody started to kind of have fun again. Now, Grunk did miss on some throws, and particularly I'm thinking at the end of the game where it was about 15 seconds left, where he missed Ross up the sideline. It was a really difficult pass. You got to put it over top of the flat defender, and you can't throw it too far to where that high safety is going to be able to smack your wide receiver. It's called the hole shot against cover 2. So there's like an opening that you need to hit. Well, he sailed it a little bit too much. I thought that was one of his bad passes of the day. But overall, I thought he managed the game well, and to be able to bounce back from that interception when it didn't look great for Penn State at that time. I think when we came out and threw that interception at halftime, most people were like, all right, well, this one's officially over. But Penn State willed their way back, and a big reason for that was Nick Singleton. And boy, was I happy. I was so happy for that guy. I did not want to sit here and be pounding on the table to basically say bench Nick Singleton all year. That's the last thing I wanted. As I've told you, he's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. Will never say a bad word about anybody, just wants to work. And like the holes were there for him, but he was seeing it. His big counter run, I mean, the hole was there, so there was really nowhere else to go, but he saw that. But he had a couple other like 8-yard runs where I watched him press into the line of scrimmage, press his aiming point, and then one cut and go. And I'm like, where is that Nick Singleton been? Because it looked like, once again, there was some confidence just injected into this team. And it felt like Nick said, I'm going to put this team on my back a little bit. And so that was fantastic to see, specifically in the second half. That's when Penn State really was able to start to run the football. And like I said, guys were playing inspired. Guys were having fun again. Because in the first half, the offensive line and the tight ends, I was watching the tape. It was pretty bad as far as the run blocking goes. There was so many missed blocks. I could go down the line. Just about every single guy, including the tight ends, was struggling and was getting beat inside. And there was times where Nick Singleton and Katron Allen just had nowhere to go. 1.5 yards per carry at halftime. So you're not going to do much with 1.5 yards per carry, but really just turned around. And the biggest thing I noticed, and I think many of you watching, it was just the physical nature of the run game, of the tight ends and the offensive line. Once again, I don't know what was said at halftime, but there was a flip of the switch, and it was like, all right, we're going to go out there and we're going to play physical bully ball, and they were moving dudes off the line of scrimmage, and it created so many bigger gaps for Nick and Katron to be able to run through, and it just kind of got the offense going. All right, let's talk about that second to last drive where Penn State gets the ball back, up 3, you get a first down, and you basically win. First off, in those situations from here on out, and I think we've started to see this in the NFL, but just all around, I think you pass it on first or second down. And now, so Indiana was going to get the ball back with 2 minutes left, no matter what. Even if you run it 3 times, if you just, the situation with how many timeouts they had and the 2-minute warning, if you run it 3 times and just punt the ball, they're getting the ball back with 2 minutes. 2 minutes in college football is an eternity. In my opinion, if you have the ball with 2 minutes left, in college, like the time isn't even really that much of an issue because the first down stopping the clock is so different than the NFL. That gives you so much more time. So I think right there, that's why you take a risk on first or second down and just pass the ball. So Penn State goes 2 runs right up the gut. Mind you, Indiana had like 6 down defensive linemen when this was happening. So there was nothing that was going to come out of that except just running the clock out. Then came the third down play where we threw it to Rappleyea in the flats. So first off, we just need better clock management and understanding of the game. That's the next thing I want in this head coach, to understand the flow of the game, to know how to manage a clock, to know when to use your timeouts, because there's 2:09, 2 minutes, 9 seconds left on the clock when we were starting, and obviously the clock wasn't running, when we got up to run that third down play. You 100% go into a full-on drop back pass where you are trying to get the first down there. So I'll tell you why. So it doesn't matter that the 2-minute warning is coming in 9 seconds. So let's say you pass the ball on third down. It's incomplete. There is at least 5 seconds that is coming off of the clock on that pass. So now we're down to 2:04 and it's incomplete. So the clock stopped. And then you have the punt. So during that punt, the clock is going to hit 2 minutes no matter what. 2 plays is going to take 9 seconds, especially a punt, because punt is a lot longer of a play. So no matter what, Indiana is getting the ball back after the 2-minute warning happened. So I feel like these are all things these are conversations that you should be having on the mic, on your headset. If you're Terry Smith, you should be talking to whoever your time guy is, whoever your situational guy is. That's what they should have said. Hey, no matter what, they're going to get the ball with the 2-minute warning already have had happened. So why not take a risk and pass it? There was nothing to gain there by just running the clock again. Because like I said, through the punt, the 2-minute warning was going to occur. Now, let's talk about the actual, that third down play. Penn State comes out, third down, 3 tight ends, an extra offensive lineman, no wide receivers. They lined Luke Reynolds up at right guard, and they kind of had everybody off the line of scrimmage, and then they motioned like 4 guys to the left side of the line of scrimmage. And by the way, if anybody, I've seen a couple people say it, they're like, oh, Kotelnicki wasn't calling plays in the second half. No, he was, because this is a full-on Andy Kotelnicki play. And by the way, we're going to break down on my film breakdown tomorrow and for the bloggy. I'm going to break down like the final 4 or 5 drives for you. So you're going to see all this if the picture is not making sense. But they put Luke Reynolds at right guard, and right away the Indiana defenders are pointing at him. They're like, hey, look, tight end. So they identify it right away, because the idea is we're putting him at right guard and he's an eligible receiver there because of the way you align, that we're going to, slip him out and fool the defense. Well, very quickly, I see 3 guys on the tape going, hey, pointing at him. And it's like, if I'm Kotelnicki, if I'm Terry Smith, I see that. Let's take a timeout. Because they're not fooled at all. The only way you were getting anything out of that is if you fooled the defense, and you did not. So let's call a timeout. Let's get all 3 wide receivers out there, and let's run a real play. So I appreciate the valiant effort, but did not like the management of that second to last drive. You have to be more aggressive. And once again, that's what I want in this next head coach. Not only someone that can manage, do all that stuff, understand when to use timeouts. We're not asking for a lot here, just the bare minimum, folks. But be aggressive. That's these coaches now that go for it and take, and when you get the ball back in those situations, they pass the ball, and like those are the people that are successful. It for so long, and it felt like James Franklin wasn't here, but it kind of crept into this game. Penn State's just playing not to lose instead of playing to try to win, and that was my biggest takeaway from that final drive. And then the last piece, talking about time management. 20 seconds left on the clock. You complete a pass over the middle for a first down. Clock stops, and Terry Smith uses his final timeout. Huge mistake there. One of the worst clock management situations I've ever seen. The clock stops, so you can get up to the ball. They're going to let you stop. The way that operates every single time, you can get up to the ball and spike it, and only 1 second is going to come off. They could have spiked it. There would have been 19 seconds left, and you still have your timeout. Terry Smith uses his timeout. Don't get that. And then obviously it changes the way that you call your next plays. You have to hit stuff out of bounds, or the first down marker. Even on the final play where you have 5 seconds, you could hit a quick little curl route over the middle, call a timeout with 1 second left. Maybe you could try a long field goal, but you have a manageable Hail Mary. It was just not a good situation. That is your number one job as a head coach, to manage the game. So it has to be managed better. Last note on the offense, Kobe Howard. 22 snaps for Kobe Howard. I put in one of my friends' group chats. I was like, hey, before the game, over under Kobe Howard 9.5 snaps. And people were like, oh, set that at 5.5. Ha, ha, ha. 22 snaps. That is pretty good for him. Once again, 2 targets, 2 receptions. I want to say every single time Kobe Howard has been targeted, he's caught the ball. Someone, you can fact check me on that, but at least the last 4 or 5 games, every time they've thrown him the football, it results in a completion. So maybe when you have someone that's doing that, we continue to throw the ball to them. That'd be a good idea. Continue to play that young man, please. All right, let's talk some Penn State defense. I thought Knowles came in with a great game plan against Mendoza. It was a ton of blitzes, great pressures. They were consistently getting home on this Indiana pass protection. Per PFF, Penn State registered 29 pressures on Mendoza. He only threw the ball 30 times. Now, once again, you can get multiple pressures on one play. So like that final touchdown that Mendoza threw, we probably registered 2 pressures on that play. But still, 29 pressures is a lot of damn pressures. So there was just so many times where Mendoza made it look like magic, where he either kind of escaped the pressure or he was getting hit as he threw the football, or about to get hit, or multiple times his arm's literally back here, getting hit as it's back here, and he somehow follows through and is completing the passes. It was ridiculous. And once again, they just continued to make more plays. This Indiana offense, their wide receivers, especially number 80, Becker. On the final drive, that catch was insane that he threw to him. There wasn't much better defense you could play as a DB. Now, by the way, Becker, I'm sure you saw this on the TV, but if you didn't, his career stats before coming into the game yesterday, 7 receptions for 157 yards. Yesterday against Penn State, 7 receptions for 118 yards. Death, taxes, and players having their best career games against Penn State. Yes, that is the life we live. Some people were saying we were cursed. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like it. We're blessed because we're Penn Staters, but my gosh, it is rough. But it's kind of what it came down to. Like I said, like Indiana just has guys that stepped up and made more plays, and Penn State didn't. And honestly, I thought like overall, Mendoza looked, as much as he had some really great moments and you could see that why he's going to be a top 3 pick, he looked fairly pedestrian until that final drive. His stats were really not good. That interception that he threw was pretty uncharacteristic. And it felt like, because he was kind of flushed because we were getting so much pressure on him. So he felt like he had to make plays and made some mistakes. So it was a great job mixing up the coverages and the blitzes. Sometimes it was a zone blitz. Sometimes it was a man blitz. Sometimes it was the cornerbacks coming. Sometimes it was the linebackers up the middle. Like Jim Knowles did a fantastic job yesterday. So I'm really liking the progression that I've seen from this defense getting better and better, even without Tony Rojas. Now, that final drive was brutal for the defense. I wish we would have continued to blitz more. Zane Durant did get that sack. It wasn't really a blitz. It was just we ran a stunt, and you got home there. By the way, guys need to get back in that situation. Forget the whole team celebration, 8 yards in the backfield, because I don't want to say it all the way hurt us, but the next play was an 18-yard completion to Cooper right up the seam, and part of it was because everybody was running back trying to communicate, and Amari Campbell and Tash were getting set up so late, and so like they were set up by the time the ball was snapped, but I would like to have more communication. So understand where you are at. You can celebrate a little bit, but let's get back and let's finish the damn game there. Now, each play that Penn State didn't blitz on that final drive, they basically got shredded. But when they blitzed, they were still getting a ton of pressure on Mendoza, and it was difficult for him to get the football out. There were multiple times where the Amari Campbell play where we brought pressure. I believe it was King Mack absolutely destroyed Mendoza, and Amari Campbell slipped. If Amari Campbell doesn't slip there, he is picking that thing off, and everybody is rushing the field. But once again, just made a few more plays. Like there were plays there to make. That ball was tipped up, and it was there for Amari Campbell to intercept, but he slipped. So you can't fully blame someone for slipping, but you just didn't make the play, and they kept making the plays. I don't have a huge problem with Jim Knowles blitzing like he did on those final plays. It seemed like Indiana didn't have a great answer for it, honestly. I didn't like that he blitzed all 8. I would have liked him to drop at least one guy out of that. I think the pressure itself, the look of 8 guys up is going to screw the offensive line. You can afford to drop one of those guys out of the middle and get back into the middle of the field so Zakee Wheatley can feel more comfortable in his coverage and kind of put hands on that wide receiver. It was just one hell of a play by that wide receiver. Zakee played it just about as good as he possibly could have, outside of kind of just carrying the guy out of bounds. But, what are you going to do? Once again, I keep coming back to it. They just made more plays. It sucks to hear. Sometimes that's just the answer. And so here we sit today, me talking about this instead of talking about a number 2 victory for the first time since 2016 Ohio State. I think it would have been the first field rush since then. And I'm thinking back to it. I was talking about it with Goon today. I think outside of 2016 Ohio State, there was some slight field rushes. I think 2005 Ohio State whiteout game, I heard like some people got on the field, but they like got them off kind of. It wasn't a full field rush. It was, I think it was one of the first. Let me know in the comments below if you were a part of a field rush. But a lot of people in my live show this morning were saying 1982 against Nebraska before that 2016 Ohio State game was like the last full field rush. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if you were part of a field rush besides that. This run defense for Penn State, really struggling for a while. The past 2 weeks, I thought it's been really, really effective. Guys have been in their gaps, understanding their assignment. The blitzes that we're running look like everybody's confident, playing the 100 miles per hour. That's the biggest difference. The first couple weeks, and really the first, 6, 7, 8 weeks, it was all looking like guys were guessing, and they weren't fully confident. Past 2 weeks, maybe it's been simplified because it just looks easier for the guys to comprehend. Guys are playing at full speed. Thought Zane Durant played the best game of the season for himself, had 7 pressures, was getting home consistently. But the biggest thing was, and why this run defense was playing well, Zane Durant was jacking up the guards and the centers in the backfield. And there was, to be honest, there was a lot of times in those other games where Zane Durant was getting taken 3 to 4 yards off of the ball by a double team. And that wasn't happening yesterday. And that's why the run defense was just that much better. Among other things, safeties coming down, making some great tackles in the box. But just guys knowing where they need to be was a huge improvement. Now, I think something that this team needs to continue to work on is their missed tackling. Per PFF, 8 defenders had over a 20% missed tackle rate. So that's every 5th tackle. You got 8 guys where every 5th tackle by those 8 guys is a missed tackle. That's not very good. That's a lot of guys that are struggling to make that first tackle, and so they're gaining more and more yards. So I think that's another place that you can definitely look to improve upon on this defense. But highlighting a couple other guys on this defense I was proud of. I thought Zion Tracy had a really nice day in coverage. I was pleased watching him on tape fly down, make some really nice tackles. Tackling has been something that he struggled with, but it was a pretty good day for him. Alex Tash, true freshman, getting 22 snaps yesterday. I think we're starting to find something with him, taking some of those snaps off of Dom DeLuca and giving them to Tash. Looked great. He had that pass breakup on that second to last drive for Indiana. So starting to come along there. I think that's someone you probably want to look at to really try to keep because he flies around. He's a heat-seeking missile. So that whoever comes in next, and if Jim Knowles stays, that's someone I'm marking down. I want to keep Alex Tash. I think he's got a lot of potential there. And then Dom DeLuca early on had some really nice TFLs, didn't play as much because, as I mentioned, Tash got 22 snaps. And, you look back to those UCLA and Northwestern weeks, really no one else got to play. So I thought that was great, and a big reason why Indiana was held to 3.5 yards per carry, which is one of their lowest of the season, because it was just guys were playing gap sound football and guys were playing physical, playing fast, playing confident. So I think that was fantastic to see. And, I think people forget. The defense was playing pretty damn well before Tony Rojas got injured. Like the Oregon game, they had some long drives, but 17 points in regulation against that Oregon offense, I'll take that. It was good conditions. It was Dante Moore even had a good day. So I don't think people realize how good the defense really was playing. And honestly, I think this next head coach, the biggest decision they have to make, do you keep Jim Knowles or do you not? I'm leaning, and this might be biased because I've seen the last 2 weeks in the progression, so I'm getting excited because it was so bad. I think you keep him. I don't know. Number one, if you don't keep him, by the way, you owe him $6.4 million. So that's a lot of money right there. But just a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of development. If he can bring those blitzes and pressures and continue to do them, in an effective manner and not getting burnt on big plays, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Are you a keep Jim Knowles? Are you let Jim Knowles go type of guy or gal? We got some gals tuning in too. So let me know what you think on that below. This week, we have producer Jesse coming on the show again. We're going to do another car ride interview with Tyler Donahue, and then we will have JMU head coach Bob Chesney. We're going to do another coaching profile on him. A lot of questions about him, so you don't worry. 10 to 12 minutes. I'm going to give you everything you need to know. We throw in some great background. It's really fun. I really enjoy putting those videos together. So appreciate you guys always supporting them. And appreciate you guys tuning in today. Please like, comment, subscribe. Peace.